What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to jump in and talk about exotics inside of Forsaken. And in this video in particular, we're going to focus on some of the really strong stuff in the game right now, and we'll look at both exotic armor and weapons that folks are using in a bunch of different content. So this is going to be a pretty meta video, as it were. I'm going to talk about the strongest exotics inside of PvP, some exotic armor which is absolutely game-changing, as well as some weapons. We'll also focus in a little bit on some PvE stuff, and I figured now would be a good time to actually speak about Forsaken exotics, considering Bungie recently upped the drop rate for a lot of this stuff. And so these exotics are becoming more and more common right now, and some of these have an incredible influence over the game. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video. As always, let me know your thoughts down below, any favorite stuff that you're running right now. But if you do dig the video, a rating below is very much appreciated. Regardless, let's jump straight into it. So before we talk any more about exotics right here, I'm going to say a huge thanks to my pal Siva, as well as my friend Firebolt and my friend Easy for letting me jump on their accounts to try a bunch of these things out. Safe to say, most of these I don't actually own right now, but I have put some time in with a bunch of stuff, so we're going to jump in and talk about some of them. Let's start out with the Hunter, and it's going to have to be the Guizen Vest, or the Guizen Vest, however you say that. There are definitely some mixed opinions about this one, but for the description it reads, each Spectral Blade kill that you make before going into stealth will restore super energy. So this is an exotic that will extend your super, but it can technically give you an infinite super. So when you actually make a kill inside of the super, you can then use Vanish, but what happens is that Vanish will return a chunk of energy to the super every time that you use it. So once you've made one kill, you can see, you can continuously recharge the super by going Invis, and once you make a second kill in this state, you'll actually get more super energy returned every time you use Invis. And if you weren't actually making kills, you could basically be in this state permanently and just keep using Invis to extend that super, but the effect actually lasts until you generate 5 orbs inside of one super, but it means that you have an incredibly long time to actually run around hunting down kills with this thing, as you can see in this clip right here. And so while Spectral Blades isn't necessarily the most popular thing, and there are mixed opinions about the super, if it is a super that you're using, the Guizen Vest is an absolute monster. It's going to allow you to tear it up in PvP, hunt down all those kills. I honestly don't know if this exotic is supposed to do this. Either way, it is incredibly strong. We should also talk about another Hunter exotic right here. It would have to be the Shards of Galanor. And of course, this is for the Blade Barrage, so hits and kills with Blade Barrage will return super energy when the super actually ends, and you can get an insane amount of Blade Barrage supers off. It's especially potent in PvP, but of course it's pretty useful in PvE as well. But you'll certainly find that this is the super meta Blade Barrage exotic. A lot of people running this inside of comp. And essentially, if you get one kill, you're going to see about a quarter of your super return. But if you make 2 kills, you'll see considerably more energy return when the super actually ends. And another thing about Blade Barrage is that any of the knives that actually connect and do damage to anything that can take damage, so a Titan's Barricade or something, all of that counts towards giving you bonus super energy. And in particular, this super right here is a really good example. It only actually tagged 2 kills, and you can see we've essentially got that super back. So this thing is absolutely insane. If you stack this with super mods, of course your cooldown is going to be really good, but on top of this, you're going to be getting that super back a ridiculous amount of times, and it can be a fantastic opening super inside of a comp match or something, because of course you're going to get energy back towards your next super, which you can then attempt to use as a shutdown for anyone getting their supers up on the enemy teams. Shards of Galanor makes Blade Barrage, which is of course pretty strong, immensely strong. Do not sleep on this exotic if you have been. Now though, let's jump to a weapon real quick before we get onto some more armor. We're gonna have to speak about the Queenbreaker's bow. This has been a bit of an emerging beast over the past few weeks, especially with the changes to the sleeper simulant. So Queenbreaker's bow right now is probably just about the most popular invader weapon inside of Gambit. And this is something that a few folks did indeed see coming. Of course, Queenbreaker's acts a lot like any other linear fusion rifle. It has a very fast charge time, and of course you do have different combat side options to actually change the charge time. But the key thing about Queenbreaker's bow is going to be the aim assist and the accuracy of the thing. You can literally fire shots into people's chests and still get headshots. With the ability to charge incredibly quickly as well, it's actually a really good counter to Sleeper. You can use it for invasions. Inside of PvP, it's incredibly fun in general. And absolutely, I'd say that Queenbreakers has become the choice for Gambit Invasion, like I said. And as more people get it, and anticipate we're going to see it even more inside of the game. With some of these really strong exotic weapons, there definitely tends to be a lot of feedback, so let me know yours down below about the Queenbreakers. Do you think it's too easy to use? Of course, another factor here is that you can carry more ammo than you can with a Sleeper or something, and you're always going to pull more ammo from crates than you will with Sleeper. So that's definitely another aspect that makes the Queenbreaker's bow very strong. Let me know your thoughts about it down below. I would also give another shout out to the Sleeper Simulant right here. Of course, this has been the dominant weapon for the PvP side of Gambit especially. It has seen a nerf, so it has less aim assist than it did at the launch of Forsaken, and it also can't pull as much heavy inside of Gambit, so it definitely is at a bit more of a disadvantage, but in terms of its ability to actually make kills, Sleeper Simulant is still immensely powerful in the game, but I think Queenbreakers has definitely become the better option at this point. Now though, let's speak about a Titan exotic real quick. We've got the One-Eyed Mask. And absolutely, much like the Hunter exotics we spoke about, this one is a game changer. It's one of the strongest dueling exotics in the game, immensely good for any type of content, but as always, most potent or irritating inside of PvP. So of course, when an enemy damages you, if you're using the One-Eyed Mask, they'll become marked, and whenever you kill that enemy, you'll actually get increased damage as well as an overshield and health regen. So what happens is you immediately become less vulnerable once you've made that first kill, and of course this is really nasty for dealing with multiple targets, actually getting your health back, and the bonus damage that you'll get, while not insane, is definitely beneficial considering you have an overshield. So essentially the One-Eyed Mask is kind of an overcharge exotic. If you can make a kill on that tagged enemy, it's going to put you in a really good position. The first kill essentially feeds the exotic and then makes it much more difficult for other players to follow up in an engagement. And like I said, in PvE as well, this one is definitely not to be ignored. You can kind of go god mode, consistently getting that bonus procced damage, regen in health, get in the overshield. One-Eyed Mask is a very strong exotic right now. And like I said, there are always different opinions about these, so let me know your thoughts down below. Are any of these exotics simply too strong? Speaking of strong, we should mention the Ursa Furiosa for the Titan. This is one I don't actually have any gameplay of right here. It's kind of similar to the Shards of Galanor in that it returns super energy, but Ursa actually gets its energy from enemy damage. So as you guard with a Sentinel shield, incoming damage is converted into super energy, and that super energy will be applied to your next super once the current one ends. So again, this can be a pretty nasty exotic. What a lot of folks will do is actually pop the Sentinel, then put the shield up, because of course folks, if they're trying to combat you, are more likely to shoot you at the beginning of your super, and even just a few shots at that shield, even if you go ahead afterwards and continue and burn the rest of the super out like you normally would, it's going to grant you a considerable amount of super energy, even more than what you see with the Shards. Of course, the super itself isn't necessarily as strong across the board as something like Shards, in particular circumstances especially, but honestly, go look up the Ursa Furiosa. Mtashed actually made a really good video where you'll immediately get an idea of just how ridiculous these things are. No conversation about strong exotics or questionably strong exotics would be complete without touching on the Telesto. So right now, Telesto is possibly the most controversial weapon in the game and has become a go-to weapon for a lot of people inside of PvP. So of course Telesto behaves like a traditional fusion rifle, but it actually applies projectiles to a target which then later detonate. Now Telesto was always fairly strong inside of PvP inside of Destiny 2 because it was a heavy weapon. However, when it's moved over from the heavy to the special slot, it doesn't really appear to have changed all that much in terms of its power, and as far as fusion rifles go, the Telesto has a pretty high ease of use element. It's relatively easy to fire that thing even at very long ranges and land a lot of projectiles, but the real reason it's super effective even at range is that unlike most fusion rifles, Telesto doesn't actually have any damage drop-off on the projectile rounds when they detonate. So of course you get initial damage drop-off, but then the damage drop-off for projectiles in general is incredibly minimal, and that's why it's so good at long ranges. It's fantastic for getting multi-kills because of course you can apply projectiles to multiple targets. You can use it to control maps. Honestly, I think at this point, I don't really even need to demonstrate why Telesto is immensely strong in the game right now. Pretty much everyone has run into it. And like I said, there are very mixed opinions about this weapon. I've seen a lot of people say straight up nerf Telesto, you know, get in the heavy slot. Equally, I've seen a lot of people say that it's one of the only other really viable energy weapons, which I don't really know how I feel about that, but I'm not really here to give you my opinion. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is Telesto too strong? Does it need to be nerfed? Does it need to be put into a different slot again? Or do you think Telesto is perfectly fine at the moment? Let me know down below. So we've kind of skimmed over Warlock exotics just a little bit. And that's not to say that any of the Warlock armor is bad, because we have some pretty awesome stuff, but perhaps things are just a little bit less flashy right here. So I would mention the Controverse Hold. So of course these affect grenades, and when you use them, you'll actually get a random amount of grenade energy returned when you hit someone with a grenade. On top of this, you will resist incoming damage while charging void grenades, and it works for Chaos Accelerant, Feed the Void, and Handheld Supernova. So if you're actually charging a grenade up, then you do get increased damage resistance, and of course you can one-shot folks with those grenades if you get a direct hit in PvP, but of course you will get a bit of grenade energy back, It's not super strong like the Shards of Galanor or anything like that, but if you really do love your Void Grenades, it's certainly not a terrible option. The Chromatic Fire for the Warlock is a really entertaining exotic, so precision kills with kinetic weapons create an explosion in the element of your equipped subclass, and inside of PvE, this is absolutely insane because of course it essentially gives you Firefly for any kinetic weapon, but you also get an elemental explosion as well based on the subclass you're using, but this actually stacks with weapons that already have Firefly, so things like Ace of Spades. You can actually use that weapon with Chromatic Fire, and you'll be granted multiple explosions at the same time, which is pretty cool. So inside of PvE, it has a lot of fun factor, a lot of flair, and a lot of power as well. You can take down a ton of enemies at once with literally 1 or 2 shots here. And so I guess in its own way, the Chromatic Fire is pretty game-changing. If you want to create a ridiculous amount of explosions with your weapons, give a Dragonfly explosion to any kinetic weapon of your choice, then Chromatic Fire is going to be a bunch of fun. I'd also say that the Phoenix protocol for the Warlock is pretty strong. When you get kills and assists standing in your own Well of Radiance, it'll actually return super energy to you. And of course, this can work in PvP, although it isn't the super that most folks would generally be using. In PvE though, this absolutely is a game-changing exotic. Of course, it can be used to great effect for an entire team. You know, you can use it in a raid and be giving your entire team that Well of Radiance much more regularly, but also this is a powerhouse for soloing PvE content. Of course, I'm using a pretty basic example right here in a Lost Sector, but if you were running the Shattered Throne solo, try to do a solo Nightfall, or just doing your general everyday PvE content, if Well of Radiance is what you're running, Phoenix Protocol is absolutely a monster. You can see right here, I've got the well dropped down, I'm making kills, and I'm managing to essentially earn the well back during that first usage of the super, so I don't think you can really understate just how good Phoenix Protocol can be. I know we touched on a couple of different Warlock exotics right there at once. They're definitely more PvE focused exotics in my opinion, but I'd say that across the board, the Warlock has a pretty decent set of exotics now between year 1 and 2. But guys, that is going to be the list for now. These are some of the most potent things in the game, as well as some generally strong exotics that you can use every day. So let me know down below any that you think are maybe a bit too strong, or any of your favorites to use. I feel like Bungie did a pretty good job with exotic armor, especially in this expansion. Of course, I haven't listed everything, I haven't listed all of the weapons. So if there's anything you think should be on this list, definitely let me know in the comment section. But if you have enjoyed this one, maybe it's useful, a few different things that you can try out if you're getting these exotics dropped. If you're still on the hunt for any of them, I wish you the best of luck. But if you have enjoyed this video, guys, a rating is super appreciated down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny content going forward. But for now, guys, whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.